The great hall of Xerion Prime stretched like a crystal cathedral across the mountain peak. Light from 3 suns streamed through walls made of pure diamond, casting rainbow patterns on the polished floor. Today, representatives from 47 different alien civilizations had gathered for one purpose. They were here to judge humanity. Dr. Sarah Chen stood alone in the center of the massive chamber. Her simple blue uniform looked plain next to the exotic forms around her. The Altarians floated above her, their gossamer wings catching the light like soap bubbles. Their leader, High Minister Velthara, spoke in musical tones that the translation device turned into cold words. "So this is what humans call impressive," Velthara said, gesturing toward the holographic display showing Earth's technology. Chemical rockets that barely reach their own moon. Nuclear weapons from a century past. Ships that float on water instead of bending space itself. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not the warm laughter of friends, but the cruel sound predators make when they see something weak. The Korthak delegation, towering beings made of living crystal, hummed in harmony. Their sounds made the floor vibrate with disapproval. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years," said General Korthak, his crystal face reflecting the light like a broken mirror, "when they learn to leave their little blue world properly." Dr. Chen kept her face calm, but inside she was counting. 47 civilizations, each one certain they knew everything about humanity, each one making the same mistake. They looked at Earth and saw only the surface. The depth lords of Kepler 442b were the worst. These aquatic beings lived in great underwater cities on their homeworld. Their spokesperson, Prime Current Titelrath, spoke through a water-filled communication sphere that bubbled with each word. "The humans have not even explored their own oceans properly," Titelrath gurgled. 71% of their world is water, yet they build only on the land. They are afraid of the deep places. How can such creatures join us among the stars? More laughter. More crystal humming. More wing fluttering from the Altarians. Dr. Chen noticed that several species were not laughing. The Vorthan Empire, masters of stealth technology, watched silently. The Nexus Collective, who prized information above all else, were studying her reaction carefully. Smart species, she thought. They would live longer. "Dr. Chen," said Council Prime Executor Zaldris, a towering figure whose species had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. "Your people submitted this application for membership in the Galactic Council. We have reviewed your civilization's achievements." The word achievements dripped with sarcasm. "Your technology level is classified as level 2 on the Kardashev scale. Your military capabilities are limited. Your space exploration is in its infancy." Dr. Chen nodded respectfully. "We understand the Council's concerns. However, I believe there may be aspects of human civilization that were not included in your initial survey." High Minister Velthara's wings tinkled like wind chimes as she laughed. "Oh, please enlighten us. Did your survey teams miss some great hidden cities? Some mighty space fleet hiding behind your moon?" "Not behind our moon, no," Dr. Chen said quietly. The comment was so soft that many missed it entirely. Those who caught it dismissed it as the desperate hope of a failing applicant. Only the Vorthan delegate leaned forward slightly, his 4 eyes narrowing with interest. Council Prime Executor Zaldris waved one massive hand, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed Earth from space, a blue marble covered mostly by swirling white clouds and vast oceans. "Your homeworld is beautiful," he admitted. "But beauty does not qualify a species for council membership. Power does. Wisdom does. Technology does. And you see none of these things in humanity?" Dr. Chen asked. "We see a species that has barely left its cradle world," said General Korthak. "A species that fights wars with metal and fire instead of bending reality itself. A species so primitive they still use physical matter for their ships instead of pure energy constructs." Dr. Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a happy smile. "General Korthak, your people conquered 17 systems using reality-warping weapons, correct?" The crystal being straightened with pride. 18 systems. The Korthak hegemony is feared across this spiral arm. And Prime Current Titelrath, your people rule the deepest oceans of 42 worlds. 43 worlds now, the aquatic being bubbled. "We have just claimed the water world of Pelagic 7. "Impressive," Dr. Chen said. "Tell me, in all your conquests, have either of your species ever encountered resistance that made you retreat?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. General Korthzak's crystal face darkened. The Korthak do not retreat, neither do the Depth Lords whom added title wrath. We are apex predators of the deep. Of course you are, Dr. Chen agreed. Just as humans are apex predators of... She paused as if thinking. Well, I suppose that depends on how you define our environment. Council Prime Executor Zaldris was growing impatient. Dr. Chen, this philosophical discussion is pointless. Your species has submitted an application that falls far short of our standards. The decision is clear. May I make one final statement before you vote? Dr. Chen asked. Zaldris sighed, a sound like mountains shifting. Very well. One final statement. Dr. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting as many alien eyes as she could. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly to every corner of the vast space. You are correct that humans have not conquered multiple star systems. We have not built reality-warping weapons or energy constructs that reshape matter. We have not even fully explored our own solar system. She paused. But you have made one critical error in your assessment. And what is that? Asked High Minister Velthara, her musical voice sharp with irritation. You have confused the visible with the complete, Dr. Chen said. You looked at the surface of our world and assumed that was all there was to see. You catalogued our cities, our armies, our ships, our technology, but you surveyed only the parts of humanity that we wanted you to see. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. The Vorten delegate was now fully alert, his four eyes fixed on Dr. Chen. Several other species had stopped their casual conversations. Are you suggesting, said General Korthzak slowly, that your species deliberately misled our survey teams? I am suggesting, Dr. Chen replied, that you surveyed the surface of a world that is 71% water, and you never thought to look deeper. Prime Current Tidal Wrath's water sphere bubbled violently. Impossible. Our scans penetrated to the deepest ocean floors. Your deepest settlements are simple research stations. Your scans were very thorough, Dr. Chen agreed. They found exactly what we wanted them to find. The silence in the chamber was complete now. Even the Altarians had stopped fluttering their wings. Dr. Chen reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small communication device. It looked primitive by galactic standards, barely more advanced than what humans had been using for decades. This vote will determine whether humanity is ready to join the galactic community, she said. But perhaps the real question is whether the galactic community is ready to learn what humanity has been preparing for the past 2 centuries. She pressed a single button on the device. A simple action that sent a coded message across space to a small blue world, circling an unremarkable yellow star. The message contained only 2 words. Poseidon Protocol. Council Prime Executor Zaldris raised his hand for the formal vote. All those in favor of accepting humanity into the Galactic Council? Not a single hand, wing, or tentacle was raised. All those opposed? The vote was unanimous. Dr. Chen, Zaldris announced, humanity's application for council membership is denied. We suggest your species continue developing for another few centuries before reapplying. Dr. Chen bowed respectfully. Thank you for your consideration, Council Prime Executor. I will relay your decision to my people immediately. As she turned to leave, she allowed herself one more small smile. Around the galaxy, her message was being received. In the deep places where no alien scanner had ever looked, ancient systems were awakening. The real test was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Council's rejection. The galaxy had already forgotten about the small blue world and its failed application. But General Korthzak had not forgotten. The crystal being stared at the tactical display showing Earth's solar system, his faceted face reflecting the light of his flagship's bridge. 18 systems conquered, he said to his second-in-command. Each one begged for mercy before the end. These humans will be no different. The Korthak fleet hung in space just beyond Earth's moon. 27 crystal dreadnoughts, each one capable of cracking a planet's surface with reality-warping weapons. Their sensors showed exactly what the Council surveys had found. A primitive civilization with chemical rockets, metal ships, and nuclear weapons that were laughably outdated by galactic standards. Admiral Zektar reporting, "General," came a voice over the communication system. "All ships are in position. The human military appears to be mobilizing their surface fleets, but they pose no threat to our vessels." Korthzak's laugh was like breaking glass. Surface fleets. Metal ships floating on water. I almost feel sorry for them. On Earth, humanity was indeed mobilizing. Ancient aircraft carriers steamed toward battle positions. Fighter jets screamed through the atmosphere. Missile silos opened their metal mouths toward the sky. To the Korthak sensors, it looked exactly like what they expected. Desperate, primitive attempts at defense. In the deep ocean trenches, something else was happening. But the Korthak scanners, designed to detect energy signatures and metal constructs, found nothing but empty water and volcanic vents. "Begin the standard surrender broadcast," Korthak ordered. Admiral Zektar's voice boomed across Earth's communication channels, translated into every human language. "Primitive humans of the third planet, you have been judged unworthy by the Galactic Council, yet you continue to exist in our space. The Korthak hegemony claims this system for our empire. Surrender now and some of you may serve as slaves. Resist and your species will be extinct within the day." The response came from a graying human admiral aboard the USS Ronald Reagan, one of Earth's oldest aircraft carriers. His voice shook with what the Korthak interpreted as fear. "This is Admiral Thompson of the United Earth Defense Force. We cannot surrender. We will fight to protect our world." Korthak almost felt disappointed. "Very well. Begin the extermination. Start with their military installations, then their cities. Make it quick." The first phase of the battle went exactly as predicted. Human missiles launched from submarines and surface ships, their primitive guidance systems easily confused by Korthak jamming technology. Fighter jets attacked with chemical explosives that barely scorched the alien crystal hulls. The few hits that connected were absorbed harmlessly by energy shields that bent space itself around the impacts. In return, the Korthak weapons reached down from space like the fingers of an angry god. Reality-warping beams turned aircraft carriers into twisted metal sculptures. Coastal cities began evacuating as the alien fleet moved into bombardment positions. Admiral Thompson's voice crackled over the radio again, desperate now. "All units, fall back to secondary positions. Repeat, fall back. We cannot penetrate their shields." The humans were losing badly. The Korthak had expected nothing less. What they had not expected was the strange readings their sensors were starting to pick up from Earth's oceans. "General," reported the sensor operator, a young Korthak whose crystal body still showed the blue tint of youth. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the ocean floors." Korthak barely looked up from the tactical display showing human forces in retreat. "Volcanic activity. The bombardment is probably triggering seismic events. Sir, the patterns are too regular for natural phenomena, and the energy signatures are moving." Now Korthak turned his attention to the readings. Deep beneath Earth's oceans, in trenches that human surveys had marked as unexplored, something was generating power levels that matched their own ships. Multiple somethings, moving upward through the water column with impossible speed. "Impossible," Korthak muttered. "Our intelligence showed no underwater cities. No submarine fleets of any significance." The sensor operator's crystal body was now flashing yellow with alarm. "General, I count at least 40 large objects rising from the deep ocean. Energy signatures suggest they're mechanical constructs, but the readings don't match any known human technology. On Earth's surface, the evacuation of coastal cities continued. News broadcasts showed panicking crowds fleeing inland as alien weapons carved through the military forces that tried to protect them. But in certain secure facilities, calm voices spoke into underwater communication systems. "New Atlantis, this is Deep Command. You are cleared for surface operations. Poseidon Base acknowledging. Rising to combat depth. Leviathan Station reports ready for dimensional phase shift." The first sign that something was wrong came from Admiral Zektar's flagship, positioned over the Pacific Ocean. His weapons officer, a veteran of dozens of conquests, suddenly went rigid with confusion. "Admiral, our sensors are showing impossible readings from directly below us." "Define impossible," Zektar ordered. "Sir, something the size of a city is rising from the ocean floor at a depth that should crush any known materials. Speed is increasing exponentially and the energy output—" The officer paused, rechecking his readings. "Sir, it's generating more power than our entire fleet combined." Zektar's crystal face reflected the bridge lights as he leaned over the sensor display. The image showed a massive object descending from the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean, something that had been sitting in crushing darkness for who knew how long. Its shape was unlike anything in the Korthak databases. "What kind of ship is that?" he whispered. His question was answered when the ocean itself began to glow. Not the blue-green light of bioluminescence, but the pure white radiance of controlled fusion reactions. The water started to churn and boil, but not from heat. It was responding to something else, something that treated the fundamental forces of physics like tools. Admiral Thompson's voice came over the communications again, but now it carried no trace of fear. Korthak Fleet, this is your final warning. Leave our system now or face the consequences. Zektar laughed, though his confidence was shaken. What consequences, human? Your surface fleet is all but destroyed. Our surface fleet, Thompson replied calmly, was never our real military. That was when the Pacific Ocean began to rise. Not in waves or tsunamis, but in a controlled column of water that defied gravity itself. Within that column, massive shapes became visible, ships unlike anything in galactic records, their hulls seeming to flow like liquid metal, while maintaining perfect structural integrity. They moved through the water as if it were empty space, then continued moving the same way when they broke the surface and entered the air. The lead vessel was over 2 kilometers long, its hull covered in biomechanical structures that pulsed with their own rhythm. Along its sides, what looked like organic growths suddenly revealed themselves as weapon systems that bent light itself around their barrels. This is the UES Leviathan, came a new voice, calm and professional. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Deep Fleet. Korthak vessels, you have 10 seconds to begin retreating, or we will demonstrate why the Galactic Council's surface surveys were inadequate. Korthak stared at the display showing impossible ships rising from every major ocean on Earth. His reality-warping weapons, designed to crack planets, suddenly seemed small against vessels that treated the ocean itself as both weapon and shield. How? He whispered. How did they hide this from us? Captain Vasquez's voice carried across space with the patience of someone explaining something obvious to a child. General, your people have conquered 18 systems, all of them land-based civilizations. You've never faced an enemy that evolved in an environment where pressure creates diamonds, where the three-dimensional nature of combat is as natural as breathing, and where patience is measured in geological time. The timer reached 0. The Korthak fleet, which had conquered 18 systems, learned what fear felt like. Around Earth, the ocean began to sing. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan, watching her tactical display show the Korthak fleet's formation beginning to waver. Around her, the bridge hummed with activity as officers coordinated the most complex military operation in human history. But unlike the panicked chaos aboard the alien ships, every movement here was calm and precise. Captain, reported her weapons officer, Commander James Park, all Deep Fleet vessels are in position. Atlantic Group reports ready. Pacific Group is synchronized. Arctic and Antarctic stations are standing by. Elena nodded, her hands steady on the command console. She had been preparing for this moment for 15 years, ever since she graduated from the Naval Academy at New Atlantis. Like everyone else in the Deep Fleet, she had trained in environments that would crush surface dwellers, learned to think in 3 dimensions, and studied alien technology that officially did not exist. The bridge's main display showed Earth's oceans from a satellite view, but this was no ordinary satellite. Hidden in the upper atmosphere, human observation posts had been tracking alien movements for months. Each point of light on the display represented a Deep Fleet vessel, and there were far more of them than the Korthak scanners had detected. Signal from Deep Command. Captain, reported Communications Officer Sarah Martinez. Admiral Chen is requesting a fleet-wide tactical update. Elena smiled. Admiral Chen had been Dr. Chen just 6 months ago, standing alone before the Galactic Council. Now she commanded the most advanced military force humanity had ever created. The same woman who had bowed respectfully to alien mockery was about to show the galaxy what humans had really been building for the past 2 centuries. Put her through to all vessels, Elena ordered. Admiral Chen's voice filled the bridge of every Deep Fleet ship. All stations, this is Deep Command. Operation Poseidon is now active. Remember, we are not fighting for conquest. We are fighting to show the galaxy that humanity cannot be dismissed or destroyed. Make every shot count. Make them understand what they failed to see. On the Korthak flagship, General Korthak was discovering that his reality-warping weapons had a serious problem. They could not target what they could not understand. His sensors showed human vessels moving in patterns that defied physics, phasing in and out of normal space-time like ghosts. Target the largest vessel, he ordered. Full reality distortion barrage. The Korthak weapons fired, beams of twisted spacetime that could tear apart the fabric of the universe itself. But the beams passed through empty water. The UES Leviathan had shifted into a parallel dimensional phase, existing in the same location but not in the same reality. Elena watched the alien weapons fire uselessly at where her ship had been a microsecond earlier. Dimensional phase shift complete. All hands prepare for counterattack pattern Delta. The Leviathan slipped back into normal space directly beneath the Korthak flagship. At this range, the alien shields were designed to deflect attacks from above and around, not from the ocean floor. Elena's ship fired a single weapon, a focused gravity beam that turned the water itself into a projectile moving at nearly light speed. The impact sent shockwaves through the Korthak vessel, cracking its crystal hull and disrupting its power systems. Alarm screamed on the alien bridge as their perfect shields flickered and failed. But Elena's attack was just the beginning. Across Earth's oceans, dozens of deep fleet vessels began their coordinated assault. They moved like a school of predatory fish, appearing and disappearing, striking from impossible angles, using the ocean itself as both weapon and cover. The UES Kraken, commanded by Captain Maria Santos, demonstrated humanity's mastery over water physics. Her ship generated localized whirlpools in space itself, creating gravitational distortions that pulled Korthak vessels off course and into the paths of other human ships. When the aliens tried to adapt, she simply changed the direction of the whirlpools, sending their formation into chaos. Captain David Kim aboard the UES Poseidon showed what happened when human engineering met alien biotechnology. His ship's hull was partially organic, covered in structures that looked like deep-sea creatures but functioned as adaptive armor. When Korthak reality warpers hit his vessel, the bioarmor absorbed the energy and used it to power his own weapon systems. Admiral Zektar, commanding the Korthak Second Fleet, tried to rally his forces. All ships converge on Grid 77. Concentrate fire on their largest vessels. But his orders were being intercepted. Deep beneath the Pacific, in a facility that had existed since 1847, human code breakers were translating and analyzing every Korthak communication in real time. The aliens' battle plans were being read before they could implement them. Korthak fleet is attempting to surround our position, reported Commander Park. Should we withdraw to safe distance? Elena checked her tactical display. The alien ships were indeed closing in, but they were making a fundamental error. They were thinking like surface dwellers trying to contain the human fleet in 2 dimensions. Negative. Signal all deep fleet vessels. Execute diving pattern Omega. What happened next had never been seen in the history of galactic warfare. The entire human fleet simply sank. Not retreating, not fleeing, but diving straight down through the ocean at speeds that should have been impossible. The Korthak weapons tracked them for the first few thousand meters, then lost contact as the human ships entered depths where the pressure should have crushed any known materials. General Korthak stared at his sensors in disbelief. They're heading for the ocean floor. Do they expect to hide down there? His sensor operator's crystal body was flashing red with alarm. General, they're not stopping at the ocean floor. They're going deeper, into the rock itself. Impossible. Nothing can survive in solid stone. Sir, they're moving through the Earth's crust like it was water. Elena felt the familiar sensation of the Leviathan's matter phase drive engaging. Around her ship, solid rock became as permeable as air while still providing protection from the alien weapons above. This was technology that the surface world had never suspected, developed in secret facilities where the pressure of the deep ocean had taught human engineers to think about physics in entirely new ways. Captain, reported Navigation Officer Lisa Chen, we're now 15 kilometers below the ocean floor. All systems functioning normally, Elena nodded. This was exactly where they needed to be. The Korthak fleet above was powerful, but their weapons were designed for space combat and surface bombardment. They had never faced an enemy that could attack from inside a planet's crust. Signal the fleet, Elena ordered. Begin ascending strike pattern Alpha. Hit them from below. The Korthak were still trying to figure out where the human ships had gone when the ocean floor began to glow. Not from volcanic activity, but from controlled fusion reactions generating power levels that registered on sensors across the solar system. Then the attacks began. Human ships emerged from solid rock like whales breaching the surface, but instead of air, they entered the void of space. They fired their weapons while still partially phased through matter, making them impossible to target while allowing them to strike with perfect accuracy. The UES Leviathan materialized directly inside the formation of Korthak's ships, its biomechanical hull glowing with absorbed energy. Elena's weapons fired in all directions simultaneously, each shot precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. These aliens would live to tell others what they had seen. "This is impossible," General Korthak whispered, watching his fleet of conquest being systematically dismantled by ships that moved through solid matter, like it was empty space. Captain Vasquez's voice reached him across space. "General, you made the same mistake as the Galactic Council. You looked at the surface of our world and assumed that was all there was to see. But we are not a land-based species that happens to live near water. We are an ocean species that learned to walk on land. Around Earth, the battle was becoming a demonstration. Human ships moved with the fluid grace of creatures born in the deep, using three-dimensional tactics that land-based civilizations had never imagined. They controlled water, pressure, gravity, and matter itself as naturally as the Korthak used reality-warping technology. But more than that, they fought with the patience of the deep places. This was not the quick, brutal conquest that the Korthak were used to. This was a lesson being taught by teachers who had been preparing for this moment for over 200 years. Admiral Zektar's flagship was the last to fall. As his crystal hull cracked and his systems failed, he managed to send one final message to the Korthak homeworld. "Do not come to this system. The humans are not what we thought. They are something else entirely." The message would reach Korthak space in 6 days. By then, word of the Battle of Earth would be spreading across the galaxy, carried by the survivors that Elena's fleet had deliberately allowed to escape. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had been hiding in the deep places of their world. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 3,000-year history. Representatives from 47 civilizations filled the crystal chamber on Xerion Prime. But this time they were not laughing. The holographic displays showed images that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare, physics, and the small blue world they had dismissed just 6 months earlier. Council Prime Executor Zaldris stood before the assembled delegates, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. Behind him, tactical recordings from the Battle of Earth played on endless loop, human ships emerging from solid rock, moving through water as if it were empty space, wielding the ocean itself as a weapon. "The Korthak fleet has been neutralized," Zaldris announced, his voice echoing off the crystal walls. 27 vessels of the line, commanded by General Korthak himself, were defeated in 18 hours of combat. The survivors report impossible things. High Minister Velthera of the Altarians fluttered her gossamer wings nervously. Her musical voice carried a tremor that had not been there during humanity's first appearance before the Council. Surely there must be some explanation. Perhaps the humans received assistance from another galactic power? "No," replied Admiral Zektar's voice from a communication pod. The Korthak officer appeared as a hologram, his crystal form cracked and scarred from battle. "We monitored all hyperspace lanes. No ships entered or left the Sol system during the engagement. The humans did this alone." The chamber fell silent. Admiral Zektar continued his report, his voice hollow with disbelief. "Their ships moved through solid matter. They attacked from inside planetary crust. They controlled water at the molecular level, turning it into projectiles that traveled at near light speed. And their coordination?" He paused, gathering himself. "They fought like a single organism with 1,000 bodies. Every move was calculated, every strike was precise." Prime Current Tidal Wrath of the Depth Lord spoke from his water-filled communication sphere, bubbles of agitation rising through the liquid. "This cannot be. We are the masters of aquatic warfare. We have conquered the deepest oceans of 43 worlds. No surface species should possess such abilities." "That is exactly the problem," said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. All heads, sensors, and optical organs turned to see Admiral Sarah Chen walking calmly down the central aisle. She wore the same simple blue uniform from her previous appearance, but now it carried the insignia of the Deep Fleet Command. Zaldris rose to his full height, intimidation radiating from his massive form. "Admiral Chen, You were not invited to this session. No, Chen agreed, stopping in the center of the chamber. But then again, you didn't invite us to join the council either. I thought it was time for a proper introduction. The tension in the chamber was thick enough to cut. Representatives who had mocked humanity 6 months earlier now watched Chen with the careful attention reserved for apex predators. Only the Vorthon delegate seemed unsurprised by her appearance, his four eyes studying her with what might have been respect. Your fleet attacked a peaceful Korthak expedition, accused General Korthzak's voice from another communication pod. Chen turned toward the sound, her expression calm. General, your peaceful expedition began by demanding the surrender of my homeworld and threatening to exterminate my species. We simply responded to your military action with our own. By deploying weapons that violate the known laws of physics, Velthera said, her wings trembling, ships that move through solid matter, control over fundamental forces that should require massive installations. Should require them by whose standards? Chen asked. Your surveys of Earth were very thorough, Minister. You cataloged our surface cities, our primitive rockets, our chemical weapons. But did any of your teams explore the deepest ocean trenches? Tidal Wrath's sphere bubbled violently. Of course we did. We are aquatic beings. We scanned to maximum depth and found only simple research stations. You found what we wanted you to find, Chen said simply. Tell me, Prime Current, in all your conquests of water worlds, how many of them had intelligent life that evolved at crushing depths? How many had civilizations that developed in environments where pressure creates materials stronger than anything found on the surface? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Finally, Tidal Wrath admitted, none. Most aquatic civilizations develop in shallow seas or coastal areas. Exactly. You conquered the shallow places, the easy places. You never faced a species that spent millions of years adapting to conditions that would instantly kill surface dwellers. Chen began walking slowly around the chamber, her voice carrying to every corner. Earth's deepest ocean trench reaches down 11 kilometers. The pressure there is over 1,000 times what exists at sea level. Materials that form under such pressure have properties your metallurgists never imagined. She stopped near the Korthak delegation. General Korthzak, your reality-warping weapons are impressive, but they require vast amounts of energy and complex calculations to bend space-time. Our matter phase drives learn to do the same thing by studying how water behaves under extreme pressure. What takes you a massive installation, we can do with technology that fits in a ship's hull. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. A civilization that had mastered the deepest environments of their world would think differently, build differently, fight differently than anything they had encountered before. Chen continued her circuit of the chamber. You asked how we hid our cities from your scans. Simple. We built them in places where your sensors could not reach. Thermal vents that register as natural phenomena, abyssal plains where the pressure would crush your survey probes. Underwater mountain ranges that your maps mark as unexplored. She stopped before the main display, where images of the battle still played. For 200 years since we recovered the first crashed alien vessel, we have been preparing. Not just building weapons, but building an entire civilization that exists parallel to the one you surveyed. Every deep fleet officer spends their childhood learning to think in 3 dimensions. Every scientist works at pressures that would turn your equipment into powder. Zaldris leaned forward, his massive form casting the chamber into deeper shadow. You deliberately deceived the council. You allowed us to underestimate your species. We allowed you to see exactly what you expected to see, Chen corrected. A young species struggling with primitive technology. You dismissed us because we didn't fit your definition of advanced civilization. You never considered that advancement might take forms you hadn't imagined. The Vorthon delegate finally spoke, his voice carrying the precise tones of his species. Admiral Chen, your tactical display during the battle showed coordination levels that suggest hive mind capabilities, yet your psychological profiles indicate individual consciousness. How is this possible? Chen smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely warm. Ambassador Kelthvar, your people are masters of stealth technology. You understand the value of hidden knowledge. The answer to your question is simple. When you spend generations living in an environment where a single mistake means death for everyone, you learn to work together in ways that seem impossible to surface dwellers. She turned to address the entire council. The deep fleet officers who fought your vessels trained together from childhood. They learn to anticipate each other's thoughts, to move as one organism while maintaining individual creativity. It's not telepathy or hive mind technology. It's what humans call teamwork. Evolved to levels that species who fight for individual glory cannot comprehend. The chamber was silent except for the humming of translation devices and the nervous sounds of various alien respiratory systems. Finally, Zaldris spoke. "What do you want from us, Admiral?" "The same thing Dr. Chen requested 6 months ago. Membership in the Galactic Council. Recognition that humanity has earned its place among the stars." Her voice hardened slightly. "The difference is that now you understand the consequences of refusing." General Korthzak's damaged voice crackled over the communications. "Is that a threat, Admiral?" "It's a fact, General. The galaxy is full of water worlds, asteroid belts, and deep space environments that land-based civilizations consider uninhabitable. We don't." Chen gestured toward the battle footage. "What you saw at Earth was a defensive action using only the resources of our home system. Would you like to see what we could do with access to the water-rich environments of 47 different star systems?" The threat hung in the air like a physical presence. Every delegate in the chamber was calculating the same terrifying possibility. A human deep fleet vessel emerging from the crushing depths of their own homeworld's oceans, striking from places they had never thought to defend. Tidalrath spoke first, his voice smaller than before. "The Depth Lords formally request an alliance with the human deep fleet for mutual defense and shared exploration of deep water environments." One by one, other delegates began speaking, not offering membership but requesting protection, asking for trade agreements, begging for assurance that human ships would not emerge from their own planet's ocean floors. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed human embassy on Xerion Prime. The building itself was a statement, half above ground in the traditional style of galactic architecture, half below ground extending deep into the planet's crust. Crystal walls met biomechanical surfaces in a design that reminded everyone who saw it that humanity operated in dimensions other species rarely considered. Chen watched through the embassy's main window as alien. Delegations arrived for the historic ceremony. Ships from across the galaxy descended toward the crystal spires of the council chambers, but now they moved with careful precision. Every captain knew that human observers tracked their approach, and every captain had heard the stories from the Battle of Earth. "Admiral," said Captain Elena Vasquez, approaching from the embassy's lower levels. Her uniform still bore the insignia of the UES Leviathan, but now she also wore the diplomatic seal of the Deep Fleet. "Final preparations are complete. The Deep Fleet representatives are in position." Chen nodded, checking her chrono. In 1 hour, the Galactic Council would formally vote on humanity's new status. But this time the outcome was not in doubt. The real question was what kind of relationship the galaxy wanted with a species that could emerge from any water world without warning. "Status report from New Atlantis?" Chen asked. "Construction ahead of schedule. The new Deep Fleet Academy is already training the first class of interspecies officers. The Depth Lords sent 12 of their best tactical officers. Even the Vorthan Empire has requested observer status." Chen smiled. The galaxy's reaction to humanity's revelation had been swift and predictable. Those who had mocked humans 6 months earlier now competed to form alliances. Trade agreements flowed in daily from civilizations eager to access human technology. Military treaties were offered by species who wanted deep fleet protection. But the most interesting response had come from the galaxy's water-based civilizations. For the first time in their history, truly aquatic species had found partners who understood their environment better than they did themselves. The Depth Lords, masters of shallow seas, were learning from humans who had conquered the deep ocean. The crystalline beings of Europa 7, who lived in subsurface oceans beneath ice shells, had discovered that humans had been doing the same thing for centuries. "Admiral Chen," came a voice from the embassy's communication system. "Council Prime Executor Zaldris is requesting a private meeting before the ceremony." "Send him to Conference Room 7, Chen replied. Room 7 was in the embassy's deepest level, accessible only through corridors that simulated the pressure and environment of Earth's ocean trenches. It was a subtle reminder of what human civilization was really like. 20 minutes later, Zaldris entered the conference room, his massive form moving carefully through the water-filled corridors. His breathing apparatus, designed for low-pressure environments, Worked harder in the deep-sea conditions humans preferred for important meetings. Admiral Chen, he said, settling into a chair designed to accommodate his size. I wanted to speak with you before the formal ceremony, to understand exactly what humanity expects from Council membership. Chen studied the alien leader who had dismissed her species just months earlier. Zaldris was old even by the standards of his long-lived species, a being who had guided the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Now he looked uncertain, perhaps for the first time in centuries. What we expect, Chen said carefully, is the same thing we've always wanted: recognition as equals, access to galactic trade routes, participation in scientific exchange, the right to explore and settle new worlds according to our abilities. And what are your abilities exactly? Zaldris asked. The Battle of Earth showed us weapons and tactics we didn't know existed. But what else? What other capabilities have you kept hidden? Chen activated the conference room's holographic display. Images appeared showing human settlements that officially did not exist. Cities in the crushing depths of gas giant moons, mining operations in the hearts of asteroids, research stations in the vacuum between stars. We have been exploring for 200 years, she explained. Every environment you consider uninhabitable, we consider an opportunity. Ice moons, deep ocean, high-pressure atmospheres, zero-gravity construction. We build where others cannot even survive. Zaldris studied the images with growing amazement. The Titan research station. That's in Saturn's atmosphere. The pressure there would crush our strongest vessels. For us, it's just another deep-sea environment. We've been working in similar conditions for generations. Chen changed the display to show construction projects throughout human space. When you rejected our council application, you assumed we would continue developing slowly on our single world. But we never stopped exploring. Every year we find new places to build, new environments to master. The council leader leaned back in his chair, the sound of his breathing apparatus loud in the quiet room. You could have revealed this during your original application. You could have demanded recognition based on these achievements. We could have, Chen agreed, but we learned something important from that first crashed alien vessel in 1847. The galaxy is full of species who see strength and immediately think of conquest. We needed to know which kind of civilization we were dealing with, and the Korthak attack told you what you needed to know. The Korthak attack told us everything. They saw a world they thought was defenseless and immediately moved to enslave or exterminate its people. That taught us exactly what kind of neighbors we have. Zaldris was quiet for a long moment, processing implications that stretched across the galaxy. Finally, he spoke. The other council members are frightened, Admiral. They understand that you could emerge from any water world, any ice moon, any asteroid belt in their systems. They want guarantees that humanity will not use these capabilities for conquest. Chen stood and walked to the conference room's main viewport. Beyond the crystal walls, she could see the lights of Xerion Prime's capital city. But she was thinking of Earth's deep oceans, where human children learned to swim before they could walk, where cities of millions thrived in crushing darkness, where her people had been preparing for this moment for 2 centuries. Zaldris, she said finally, your species has ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. In all that time, how many civilizations have you seen rise and fall? Hundreds, perhaps thousands. And how many of them fell because they became conquerors? Because they decided that strength meant the right to dominate others? The alien leader's silence was answer enough. Chen turned back to face him. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to explore it. Every environment, every possibility, every place where life might exist. That's what drives us, not the desire to rule, but the need to discover. She reactivated the holographic display, showing new images. Human scientists working alongside alien researchers in environments neither species could survive alone. Joint exploration missions to worlds deemed impossible to explore. Deep fleet vessels serving as emergency rescue ships for stranded alien crews. This is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not conquest, but cooperation. We'll help you explore the places you cannot reach alone. We'll rescue crews stranded in environments that would kill your people. We'll share technologies that let you build in places you never imagined possible. Zaldris studied the images of cooperation and shared exploration. And in return, we want what we've always wanted. To be accepted as equals. To have our children grow up in a galaxy where they can explore freely, learn from other species, and contribute to the sum of galactic knowledge. Chen's voice carried the quiet authority of someone who spoke for an entire civilization. We want to take our place among the stars not as conquerors but as explorers. The ceremony that followed was unlike any in the Council's history. For the first time, the vote was not just about membership, but about fundamentally changing how the galaxy thought about civilization itself. Species that had dismissed the deep places of their own worlds suddenly understood that those environments might hold possibilities they had never imagined. When Zaldris announced the unanimous vote accepting humanity into the Galactic Council, the cheers came not just from human representatives, but from aliens who saw new opportunities for exploration and discovery. But the most important moment came after the ceremony, when Chen stood before the full council and made humanity's first official statement as galactic citizens. For 2 centuries, we have been preparing to join you among the stars. We have built cities in the deep places, developed technologies that work with nature instead of against it, and trained generations of explorers who see every environment as a new challenge to overcome. She gestured toward the viewport showing the galaxy beyond. Now we offer these capabilities not for conquest, but for discovery. Every water world you thought was too dangerous to explore, every ice moon you considered uninhabitable, every environment you've marked as impossible, we can help you discover what lies beneath the surface. The galaxy had spent 3,000 years looking up at the stars, dreaming of new worlds to conquer or new territories to claim. Now for the first time they began looking down, into the deep places of their own worlds.